Education Council. The Erie Technology Incubator, located at 900 State Street, works in the entrepreneurial ecosystem and provides technical assistance through the entrepreneurial process. This show features members of this ecosystem and the entrepreneurs in the Erie area. Welcome to Community Chronicles Radio. If you have a question for us or any of our guests, give us a call in the studio, 814-679-1080. I am Dr. Matthew Plotz, and with me today, as always, is our Cracker Jack co-host, Steph Scrouse. Good morning, Steph.
Good morning, Matt. I love that Cracker Jack co-host
It,
this morning.
it gets harder and harder every week to find a new adjective.
And it
So
has
this,
been quite a morning, yes.
yeah. So this week is a little interesting. We have a lot going on outside of the studio. We knew that Celebrate Erie was this weekend, so they were getting set up for that, and we knew the stage would be right outside, and all of the parking issues that we may have as we get into the studio. What we didn't know was that there was a shooting last night early in the morning, and the entire block is now a crime scene. So we are doing the show a little bit differently. Some folks got into the studio, but most of us are on Zoom. So bear with us if it doesn't sound as good as it usually does. We're working through some technical issues. So yeah, how about that, Steph?
Yeah, a lot of technical issues. Yeah.
So
Yeah, but we'll plow through. Yep, we'll get it.
yeah. I wanted to talk about Celebrate Erie and all the good stuff that's going on. But there's always something going on in the city, and unfortunately, what should be a good thing became a negative thing. And hopefully, after that, we can get through the weekend with Celebrate Erie and all the good bands that are coming in. Tribe Called Quest tonight. Just exciting stuff going on.
Yeah, a lot of stuff. Yeah, hopefully they get this taken care of, and that's too bad that had to happen.
So let's get back to our regular program. Today's first guest plays an important role in the ecosystem locally. Dr. Corinna Vernaza is the Dean of College of Engineering and Business at Gannon University and a professor of mechanical engineering. Dr. Vernaza serves on the board of directors of the Erie Community Foundation, Experienced Children Museum, Erie Technology Incubator, and PS Energy LLC. She regularly volunteers on the Society of Women Engineers, serves as a mentor for young women in partnership with the Northwest Pennsylvania Girl Scout Council, and serves as a reviewer for the American Society of Engineering Education Conference. She serves in the Ascend Advisory Board, an NSF-funded program, and a faculty advisor for the Society of Women Engineers Gannon Collegiate Section. Welcome to the show, Corinna.
Thank you. Thank you for having me
Yes,
today.
yes, welcome. You have such an interesting story of how you came to the States and Gannon University. Can you share with our audience this story?
Sure. Thank you, Steph. I'm originally from Panama. I was born there and raised around, I will say, the maritime industry. So I came to the U.S. through a partnership with the U.S. government. Many of you will know some of the history that the U.S. used to manage the Panama Canal up to the year 2000. And part of that, one of their agreement was to do capacity building in the Panamanian workforce to be able to, at some point, manage and take over the canal. So I came to the U.S. To the Merchant Marine Academy, one of the 5 service academies located in Long Island, Kings Point, as many people know about it. And I got my degree in marine systems engineering. Worked in a shipyard in Panama for a year, and then came to Notre Dame to pursue graduate work funded by a scholarship through the Coca-Cola Company and the Kellogg Institute that does a lot of work in Latin America. And after that, I came to Gannon University, moved to Erie to pursue a career in academia as a professor. I've been at Gannon. It's funny, through LinkedIn, everybody was sending thanks to me. Congratulations. I just finished or started my 22nd year, completed 21 years here at Gannon in multiple roles. Started as a faculty member and now in this role as Dean of the College of Engineering and Business. Hopefully that sums it up.
Wow, yeah, that's a lot. How do you utilize the faculty and students in the College of Engineering and Business and to help startups in the community?
Of course. I see the college and the students as a resource. Depending on what the startups are trying to produce or achieve, we might find among the faculty individuals that are subject matter experts on a specific topics. We done consultations with them. Students, as you can imagine, when we talk about technology and a lot of people are developing businesses with technology in mind. We have students that can do work for them. They can be from a business setting, doing marketing plans, advertising, selling, depending what that entrepreneur or that startup is looking for. And then the faculty, as I mentioned, can be a source or a resource of knowledge on trying to solve an issue because they cannot get something to work or really looking to expand their business, as we have had a couple of people involved in some Kickstarter campaigns. And then we also have individuals that have the experience of being themselves an entrepreneur, and they serve in multiple roles as a mentor or simply somebody where they can ask questions and support entrepreneurs through their journey. And when we comes down to funding, right now, as an institution, we support many of the startups in terms of giving them some guidance on how to pursue grants and look for external funding to support their businesses.
Now, what Gannon University accomplishments would you say you're the most proud of?
That's a tough question. I was thinking about that this morning. And as I said, I've been here 21 years. I think one of the things that blows my mind even today is how much Gannon has committed to the development of downtown and the Erie community. And when I say that, that's from the perspective of supporting our ecosystem, but also when you get to walk downtown and see historic buildings that Gannon has taken on, how much investment happens in the community to make it a safe environment for our students. And also they encourage many of us to serve in multiple boards. If I were to count how many faculty or staff serve in boards through the community, I mean, we're talking about hundreds. So that spirit of understanding that you're part of this community, that you're here to serve the community, and we do that obviously because we serve our students and we want them to be in a place where that ecosystem or that camaraderie exists. Another thing that is being amazing is being the risks that they have decided to take in the last 10 or so years. A good example will be the campus in Ruskin. We manage most of that from an operational perspective from Erie. We have certain positions over there in terms of running the facility, but having the foresight to look at that market and then starting a campus over there, I think has been something that amazes me today. And so far it's been a successful endeavor. And I will say that the third thing is that they have taken a leap of faith when we have come to them with some new programs and opportunities because we see the need in the marketplace, or we see the need for companies saying we need a degree in X, Y, or Z. And obviously there's a process for that, but they have taken some leaps of faith in letting us from an academic side start those initiatives.
I'm going to jump in here just simply because my work in the PhD space was kind of focused on colleges and universities and how they can work together to kind of pivot with the market and the way that things are right now. And I've always been impressed with how Gannon did take those risks and kind of changed and paid attention to the marketplace and what was available. All colleges and universities need to do that, given the demographic issues that you have with the number of students. And I'm impressed how Gannon has been able to do that.
Yeah, Matt, they have been able to capitalize on opportunities that, things come up and you say, do I go this way or no? Which is sort of the life of the entrepreneur, if you think about it. But the different populations that they have looked into, we were just looking at some trends yesterday on enrollment, and in 2015-16, we had a huge opportunity with SACAM, which is the Saudi commission, and we had 300-400 students here in Erie on campus at that moment in time. We have taken an opportunity with some markets in India as well. And then from a domestic perspective, one of the things that they always say is like, well, how come we have all these athletic teams? But athletic teams is an opportunity to recruit different demographics. We have students coming from all over the U.S. because they want to play a sport that we offer, and in other places they will not. For example, will be women's wrestling. I had no idea 3-4 years ago that we were going to start that kind of team. So it just brings a different demographic of students that are interested in a sport that allows us to expand in those different areas.
Good morning, Karina. This is Kathy. I was wondering, could you talk a little bit about the sixth floor of IHAC and everything that is in that awesome space, and how startups and small businesses can utilize this service to help them grow their business?
Thank you for the question. Maybe the one thing I know the most right now. So the sixth floor of IHAC is Gannon's Makerspace. We started that endeavor with the goal back then to really provide a space for our students to look at the technologies and just be ready for a job in industry. And that obviously is quite general, but the way we get to that opportunity is through, and I need to say this, is through a lot of state and federal funding. We have a couple of grants that allow us to move into that space. But right now what we have there is a huge space where, one, we have anything from a manufacturing perspective that you will see in a shop, but we also have focus on additive manufacturing. We have an extremely nice space with multiple type of 3D printers, from metal printers. We are the second place in town that has one of these metal printers. Plastic has had one for quite a few years, and we have gone over there and looked at their equipment. SEPCO now in Midville just got one as well. And we are the second place and the only school in town that has one of those metal printers. All kinds of 3D printers, from polymers to powder, you name it. And the goal in that space is threefold. One is to show students the opportunities and have them be skilled at using the equipment. So from a competency perspective, they can get some certifications through the space. We also want to encourage the new generation. Today, everybody in K through 12, most students, when you ask them when they're coming into Gannon, who's seen a 3D printer, most of them have. So how do you move from your basic setup at home to the more advanced technology? And that's why we have focused in additive and different types of additive manufacturing. And then the third piece of that is supporting the businesses in town or outside of the region who are, one, maybe looking at professional development for their employees, looking at how I can maybe incorporate some of this technology into their processes or in their plans. And three, maybe find a partner in us in the makerspace as a place for them to do some production runs or just look at parts that they cannot find or it's hard to produce somewhere else. We've done some of those type of projects for some of the architects in town, and also just one specifically for Erie Insurance that we're working on recently. But it's an amazing space where you will find from metalworking. I mean, we have paint booth, a welding section. I mean, everything you would need to actually get an idea from a piece of paper all the way to something that you can tangibly touch, make, and also you want it aesthetically looking very good. I don't know if that answers your question, but it's been a process. We opened the space formally in October of last year. So in a couple of weeks, we will be celebrating the first year since we opened the sixth floor. We have had hundreds of kids, K through 12, come through. We support pretty much every nonprofit that gets a hold of us in terms of touring, many connections with high schools. We have integrated that through some programming on campus, and we're working very closely with, as you will hear, the ETI, SBDC, and other partners like NWIRC to really provide it as a resource to companies and even startups, as I mentioned, here in the community.
So, Karina, if I was a small business, how would I contact someone to tour the space and possibly do small runs there?
Sure. There are specific individuals that do that, but I think it will be hard for everybody to remember names. But I think if they contact the ETI or the SBDC or the Beehive, they could get a touch of us. Specifically, the name of the individual running the space is Nick Devine. He is an engineer, and we have a SBDC IHAC consultant, Dan Dell. But I think if they just contact anybody in ETI or SBDC or go to our webpage, you can find the name or the email. We have an email called makerspace@gannon.edu. Very simple. And that could also be a mechanism for them to get a hold of anybody there. I hope that answers your question, Kathy.
It does. Thank you so much.
So I
Yeah,
would
I was
say
going to dovetail into that, Corinna, to your point. The Northwest Pennsylvania Innovation Beehive has a number of free services, and what the top floor of IHAC provides that we have seen is when somebody has gone to Penn State Barron and prototype something, they're looking for prototype version 2.0. And they're looking for where do I go? And we've been able to take that customer and direct them to Nick or Dandel and Nick Devine or Dandel, and they're able to, sometimes redesign version 2.0 and print that out. And it's pretty exciting to have that option to allow that business to continue to iterate their idea or their widget, if you will, and to continue to move their business along in Erie.
I agree. I think it's maybe an additional step to the Beehive. Like if they want to now make 20 or 30 of them, they can come to us. If they want to modify the design, as you call it, version 2.0 or 3.0 for that matter, they can come to us and we can help with the design consultation. And sometimes we even offer some of those services as well as part of the grant. We're doing some of that right now. But the ability to have that here in Erie, and every one of these nodes of the Beehive are very close to each other. You can visit every single one of them in the morning, if I think so. It does provide that opportunity for them to have a next place to go to continue to develop their idea, their product.
Now, not only are you the Dean of College of Engineering and Business, but also the chairman of the board for ETI. Can you share your experiences serving on the board?
Sure. I'm going to say that Kathy and Brad always make me look good. So my role in the ETI has evolved as part of being the dean of the college. You get a seat on the board. That doesn't mean you have to be the chairman of the board. So I have served in the ETI board since 2018. So it's been a period of time. Now, in the role of the chairman of the board, I got to tell you, I'm humble by the interactions that I have with other members of the board. The board of directors at the ETI is comprised of individuals that are very accomplished, many of them entrepreneurs themselves, some that have running businesses. They continue to develop new products. I'm very much engaged in the ecosystem here in Erie to help other entrepreneurs succeed, and that's really the goal of the ETI. And then we have other individuals through the years that have been involved in the economic development scene or had roles in those areas. And I think you had many of them here in the last couple of weeks. You had Kurt Hirsch, I think, last week, and many of them. My role right now is really help Brad and Kathy make some decisions at times and really continue to look what are the metrics so that the ETI continue to be a successful resource for those individuals in the community that are looking at technology, and we use the word technology based, that has changed through the years, products where they can come and find the support to get themselves to the next level in their company or startup, help them find a network of entrepreneurs that have gone or are going through the very same steps to be successful, and really be a place of resource where we can guide them or provide the space or the connections to a makerspace or the connections to a faculty member that can help them continue to move their idea forward because they need those expertise. Find a connection with the grants office to help them find funding, or individuals who are looking for opportunities to write grants. So it's amazing how we can sit down, and having all these people in the room with the knowledge is make those connections to ensure that those individuals that come into the ecosystem can be successful. It's being amazing to be part of that. And I bring at times some historical knowledge in some of the meetings just because I've been engaged in the college for a long time. But I am just very humbled to be able to have that role and connect with all those people on the board as we do regularly. Hopefully that answers the question. Go ahead.
Yeah, Corinna, you bring up a really good point, though. Again, and 2 points that you bring up. One is that it's a really eclectic, very deep board of entrepreneurs, and you've been able to guide and be a part of that for some time. Can you give a sense of how ETI has evolved over the years? Because it has changed locations, it's changed personalities, it's changed board makeup. It'd be great to get your perspective and, internally and maybe even externally. How has that evolved over the years? Because it seems like things are really speeding up right now, but the history would be really helpful to kind of share with the group.
Correct. I remember, and this is maybe more history than you need, but so to your point, the ETI first building that came through Keystone Innovation Grant, if I remember correctly, was in the old Boys and Girls Club building that is located right on 8th Street across from the parking ramp. Everybody hates me that I use that, but that's where it started. It has evolved, and from who comes into DTI has really evolved. We used to be very much talking about the word technology, but as we have seen through the years, that did not really encompass everybody that was coming to us with an outreach. We use the word now technology enable. I believe that's the wording in our mission. It has evolved significantly. I recall, and maybe some of you might know some of this, but we used to have at one point at Gannon, we hosted the Technology Council, which is no longer. Evolving to us getting that grant, and it has changed leaderships from that location to now where we are in 900 states. The beauty of being in 900 states is that we are with all the other entrepreneurial units that are at Gannon. So before we had ATI in one building, the SBDC was at a different location. The Beehive didn't exist back then, but now we have all of them into one location. And I think it's great because you have somebody who comes in. We try to use the services from each one of them and then guide the entrepreneur to what they can get as a customer or client of the SBDC, what they can get from the Beehive. And then if ready and appropriate, come and apply to become an ETI tenant or client. To really move forward with all the mentorship and the wraparound that we get to offer. One of the things that has evolved is maybe how the interactions with the entrepreneurs happen. We had nobody that used to be virtual, and with times things have changed. We have some entrepreneurs or companies that actually are virtual today. That was not something that we offered 10 plus years ago. But we have to adapt because things change, especially through COVID, in terms of what the entrepreneur is looking for. Are they interested in the services? Is them not being physically here an impediment and a barrier for them to continue in that journey? So those are a couple things. One, what companies we admit, so change a little bit the language. Two, can somebody really be, we prefer to have everybody face-to-face, but then having the possibility of having that model. And then now being in a building where you just don't have the entrepreneurial units, but also you have all the faculty and the students of the School of Business that if in a given point in time, and Brad could speak of this, we have some of those entrepreneurs that are looking for a student to help them with XYZ. The students are in the building. It's so easy for them to work, come to the office right there in the ETI where that company is. And support with the ecosystem those individuals that are part of the ETI.
Yeah, I love the convenience of that. Well, I have a student we're meeting with today, and he popped in the spring. We talked for 5-10 minutes, and he said, "I'll be back." And he's finally back. So we're going to meet today and talk. But the idea that the students are coming to classes and can peel off to talk to SBDC, could peel off to talk to ETI. Is very convenient. The other thing that you brought up, Karuna, which is really interesting too, is
I gotta jump in here, Brad. We got the 1 minute to go before the bottom half of the hour. We are going to stick with Karuna, I hope, as we come back, maybe talk a little bit more about ETI and all the things going on. Maybe a little bit about Celebrate Erie. I know our scheduled guest is not here, but we will adjust. We'll come up with some great things to talk about, and we will see you after the news break. You are listening to Community Chronicles Radio on 103.3 FM, 105.9 FM, and 1530 AM, and as always, through the Corey Higher Education Council Facebook page, or talkerie.com with the Listen Live button, the button that I hit every day at 3 o'clock while I'm sitting at my desk to tune into the Joel Natale Show. We will see you at the other side of the news break.
Great job, Karuna.
It's hard to know what's happening, but here we're trying.
That's a fast 20 some minutes.
Yep, absolutely.
It goes quick. Simply, we take a little bit of the time. We don't go on till 8:05, and it does go quick. Both sides of it, typically.
Yeah. So if the crepe business does not show up, yeah, we can certainly keep the conversation going. I don't know if Corinna has the time window. Do you?
I'm okay. I have blocked the whole hour in my calendar. Wish I had my phone to tell you where I need to be, but hey, I'm gonna just look here. Yeah, I'm fine. I know I have blocked the whole hour for sure.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to talk a little bit more about the technology piece because it's so immersed in how we think and operate now. So that's where I was going with the next question, in case you want me to lead in with that a little bit and talk about entrepreneurial ideation in that way.
I think that's good because sometimes people hear the word technology incubator and they just don't know everything that is included on that.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to. Did you hear me? There we go. Okay. All right, I'm going to put on the air so that you guys can hear it and mute all the mics.
Welcome back to Community Chronicles Radio, brought to you weekly by Gannon University's Erie Technology Incubator. In partnership with the Corey Hayed, the Erie Technology Incubator, located at 900 State Street, works in the entrepreneurial ecosystem and provides technical assistance through the entrepreneurial process. This show features members of this ecosystem and the entrepreneurs in the Erie area. This is a day where we need a lot of technical assistance.
Yes, we do.
So, in the nature of live radio, our scheduled guest was Stephanie Clausen, the owner of Give a Crep La Creperie Erie. Something must have come up. There is a crime scene right outside of the studio. Celebrate Erie is going on. So we don't have Stephanie right now, but we do still have Corinna from Gannon's ETI. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
So I guess one of the questions we would like to know is, and we talked a little bit about the evolution and the history of the ETI and the building itself in general. What can you give us any insight or thoughts about what's in the future? What do you have coming up?
I don't know if we have more space for anything, but I know, as you're aware, in terms of the ETI, we have clients coming in and out, meaning that individuals graduate. We are having a graduation, and maybe Kathy and Brad can speak more of that, but I know Mia's graduating. I'm moving her business now to Pittsburgh. So we have individuals that come, they get the support that they need from us. They start from nothing, having an idea. They start their business, their startup, and eventually, in her case, she's been so successful, and then she's moving to the next level, which we're so proud of. That's what we want to be, a place where individuals are here, 2 to 3 years or so, and depending on what that product is, everything goes the way we want it to, they're able to be successful and then start growing their business and find a place and do all the things that we see when a new business starts. So in terms of that, that's evolving. It happens all the time. They can speak about that a lot more than I have the ins and outs, but I think right now we have around 21 clients at the space. We have been discussing what else could happen. Walter Iwanenko, the president at Ganon, is always talking about should we do pop-up restaurants or pop-up businesses and things like that. I don't know if that's where we're going, but trying to explore what is a possibility, always keeping in mind, one, the students, is that a great or idea that can support student development or student engagement, and two, what other resources can we bring into this space that support entrepreneurs. The composition of the VTI is peculiar. We have some individuals that are anchor tenants, people that started a business there, and what they are currently offering supports our entrepreneurs or other individuals in the community, so they get to stay in the space. And then we have, as I said, individuals that come in, take the resources, grow their businesses, decide to move somewhere else, or at times, as you can imagine, might decide that they don't want to continue.
Boy, Corinna, you really touched on two really interesting areas. If you don't mind me jumping in here a little bit, yeah, we have what I would argue or label as a youth movement, both by gaining students coming in, and the larger Erie ecosystem is driving young people to think about side hustles. Having a day job and an evening weekend activity that turns into a business, right? From a hobby to a business. One of those experiences was a showcase that all the universities through the Beehive put on. We had a young lady that did very well for Mercyhurst and kind of moved back to New York, trying to figure out what she was going to do with her budding business idea. And Kathy Roach on the call, and I kept trying to reach out to her and find her. Kathy was able to do that. And we brought her back to Erie and showed her the incubator, and she decided to move in. And so she's a transplant from Buffalo, right? And she was being able to grow her business for the last 2 years, upcycling clothing at a very high quality. And she has the attention of high profile companies and individuals. I think we're going to see her jacket, for example, on a Nissan commercial coming up here real soon. But she has some really large garment conglomerates that are paying attention to what she's doing. So her next growth model, she wants to stay in Pennsylvania, but she needed to find a location that had a wraparound that was just very different. So she's in Pittsburgh right now. She just moved to continue to grow her business, but has worked very hard in the last 2 years in the Erie Technology Incubator to grow her business. She has a platform where she promotes her products and does the drops, and she has been very open in giving back to the Erie ecosystem while here. And she actually has said, I plan to move back to Erie once I get to a certain place. So I think there's an awful lot of good to be taken out with that company story, yet she's not anchored in Erie necessarily for the moment. Just a wonderful opportunity to bring her in and grow her. And she hired a couple part-time students along the way from Gannon as well. So just an awful lot of good that came of that experience, but they do come in and they do go out, just like you said, Corinne.
And I think that's what you want an incubator to be, a place where people come and the early stages, they have an idea. They at times don't understand all the financials or everything that goes around with running a business, because at the end, when you leave the incubator, you're running a business. If that's the path that you decide to go, some people sell it, as you all know. But I think we want them to come here, use their resources, and to her point, I will say she's the one entrepreneur I saw the most in the last 2 years. She was there at odd hours, working very hard.
Yes.
I saw her the most because she was dedicated to saying, I have possibly in her mind a 2-year plan or a 3-year plan. And if this works out, this is where I need to be. And to get to those goals and those moments in times or inflection points in an entrepreneurial cycle, you really need to put that time and effort to just succeed in the time frame that she has done. I mean, I think it's amazing how fast she's able to has gotten where she's at today.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No,
Brad.
go ahead, Kathy.
And what was great was, she always listened to everybody that she could to further her professional growth, her business growth. But as Brad likes to coin the phrase, we're not only an incubator, but we are a linkubator. And, there were plenty of times where, we would call Mia in and she would kind of talk to some of our ETI clients about her experiences, or maybe help with, how do you kind of get started on Instagram with your business? And, here's a layout. So, she not only worked odd hours, sometimes pulling all-nighters to get something done, but she also always had time to talk to any one of our clients who maybe needed some assistance from, her strengths that she brought to the table.
And I
Yeah,
think,
really good point.
yeah, that's amazing. I mean, we talked earlier about Gannon and their engagement. I talked about the engagement in the community, and she did that. She shared with everybody who wanted to hear how she was getting to the points she was getting. And I think giving back, I'm building. You just use the word, the linking everybody, right? Building that support system for those individuals in the space, in the ETI or outside, just part of our ecosystem in the community. Is great. I mean, she's a success story without a doubt, and one that brings a lot of information in terms of what is a young entrepreneur looking for, because she's a very young entrepreneur, taking that leap of faith and say, I'm going to dedicate my time into this. Not everybody is a social risk taker, if we want to talk about that. Yeah.
Corinna, you talked about our definition and how we're tech and tech enabled, and how we accept companies into our building to grow them. And can you talk, because you also get to see the technology research on the academic side again as well, based on the ETI company portfolio, how have you seen technology companies change over time?
Sure. A lot of the companies that we started with back when the ETI started, and I was looking for the year, and I think I found it was 2008. So when we started back in 2008 with the ETI, my assessment is that most of the companies that we brought in would have been companies that were eligible for an SBIR type of funding. So they were very much technology development, circuit-based platforms, in terms of platforms in the internet for some type of product. One that comes to mind is the assessment platform that FunMag, one of the faculty members, developed. We had somebody who was a physicist doing products, adapting parts for water systems and things like that. So it was very much technology that requires some type of development, systems development, enhancement of ideas, science-based. That seemed what it was, very much like that. That was my impression. And any of them at any of those points could have applied and had most of the characteristics that could have led to those kind of funding mechanisms. Today, though, we have many people that use technology in a way to support what they're trying to achieve. I mean, we have, and maybe you want to speak a little bit more details of that, but we have people that have developed platforms for financial assessments. We have individuals that are involved in the hemp and how you process hemp and use it to do products. We have individuals just like Mia using platforms, or just a little bit more of how do we use mechanisms or other systems to produce a product. So not necessarily that technology, hardcore science development or engineering development, but more on using technology as a mechanism to achieve those products. We have many examples of that type. You have individuals that are building products, so they're more. I think at one point we saw a guy coming from the beehive with the idea of the just so I can't remember if it was the grill idea, but we have just things that seem to, how do I use different parts and things, put them together to come up with a product. So we have moved from that concept of the SBIR just because that's not where the market is taking us. We have a lot of people that come with other needs versus I need a scientist to help me fix this problem because my two chemicals aren't working and I need to produce something new. So I don't know if that answers, but it's just been a shift on the amount of depth from a scientific or engineering perspective or computing perspective to more of how do we use in some of the knowledge that we already have to improve a product or some type of venue per se.
Yeah, boy, you're hitting on a couple examples of our companies that have they instantly attach to areas of technology that are just exponentially growing. Social media, number one, right?
Correct.
instantly it goes Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and now TikTok, right? And Mia has done a really good job with her business based on our conversation about how she has been growing. But the sensor world is changing quickly, and sensors are used constantly. You mentioned hemp. We have a hemp company using sensors around carbon capture, which is really interesting. And nowadays, everyone's trying to maximize the use of AI. We have a company in ETI named Next Chapters, and they have a feature on their platform. It's a crowd or group publication platform doing very well, and they turn around and built into their tool AI components to help the writer, build and continue to get past writer block, right? As a use case. And who knows where AI will go next, but those are starting to become critical pillars to the build of a business that weren't in place 5 years ago.
Yeah, you using the hemp as an example, I think when we think about the technology incubator of when we started, they would have been more worried about how you develop the sensor versus how you use the sensor in that process. Maybe that's a good example of how it had shifted. Where we are adapting to what these individuals in the entrepreneurial ecosystem are looking for, and I think that's important because that's not your typical entrepreneur now. It's like, I want to develop a new sensor and the ins and outs of that. They're going to be looking at how do I use it to, in this case, doing the carbon capture and the hemp as a mechanism for that. So it has shifted. It has shifted, and social media, without a doubt, has become a plus for us to be able to use it as a mechanism to support entrepreneurs. And if they decide that's the path they want to go, they can come into the system. You mentioned AI, and in AI is growing. It just continues to be something that everybody's using for many of their day-to-day operations, and how to use AI to support different pieces. You have the one company that, I don't remember if they're still here, but there was a company that was using AI to help on the sports betting. And I remember it was something about sports teams, and where it's applied pretty much everywhere today. So finding what is new and innovation in our day-to-day life, specifically in this case, we hear about AI everywhere today. And then how do you incorporate that to a business model or to a product or to something in terms, even it could be development, professional development. We've seen how VR is also a way in which many people are trying to or have already incorporated the use of VR for training, the use of VR for layouts of plants, you name it.
Well, Corinna, to your point, even on the flip side of that, with so much information and technology moving so quickly, consumers are much more aware. So when you're building your business, I would call it your mousetrap, you have to also meet and exceed what the customer already knows and the capabilities they already have. We were just talking about VR. It's great that you touched on that point. VR and single shooter and gaming is a platform where people are aware and use that in a lot of different ways, just for recreation. And now that's how people are trying to appeal to a workforce, is how do you make sure you do single user VR in your training, for example, as an exposure, just to match up with what a workforce consumer base is aware of and uses.
Correct. And I mean, kids today, and it's not just today, for the last many years, they are used to that environment. So when they go to school and they decide, or not go to school, and then decide then to work in a company, not having an opportunity to show them that you understand how they learn today and that they have touched all those different platforms is a disadvantage for any company. It has to be something that more and more gets incorporated in the framework of how they onboard people or how they allow people to learn or just be aware of how their systems are with some of this technology. And VR has been proven at this point to be one of the ways to do that.
Yeah, I also like, I'm going to be just a shameless shout out, and sorry for jumping in as much as I am, but I am excited about a random outreach by the Pennsylvania Department of Economic and Community Development that happened this past week. Kathy and I were reached out to provide an article for our one of our incubator companies. Their old name was Mideo, and they've been acquired by U.S. Acute Care Services. And the flattering story that they reached out to is said, hey, we're looking for a company that has grounded out and is now starting to scale and is building up both employees and building the business from a revenue standpoint. So Dr. Fred Mararchi is the founder of that organization, and he has a technology that fills a gap. It's not necessarily trying to meet the newest technology, but it's for those who are incapacitated, maybe even in an emergency room. And that technology records your health directives when you're unable to speak for yourself. Really important technology, but something where we got to see his hard, difficult grind of build and getting the market traction. And really shout out to the state of Pennsylvania and a lot of people in our particular community that has helped him along the way. He is now a story of one of 3 incubated companies in the state. And that just happened this week, and very excited to point out that his technology and stick-to-itness has turned into a nice success story, and the attention is coming back to Erie because of that great work and the technology that filled that gap.
And so one, I have my card because back then I was not in the ETI chair, but I said I need to know what this product is. It is amazing to be able to have that. I have it in my purse. If you have an accident, somebody just can grab that. And it's a QR code. They scan it, and there's a video of me saying what I want to happen to me at that moment in time. So it's amazing. Two, you bring something specific about him, and I think people sometimes said, I want to develop something brand new. But he has gone in the path of just really looking for what was the missing connection between, in this case, the patient and the caregivers. It's really about what are those gaps that are currently in any type of industry where we see a lot of entrepreneurs be very successful at, because they're really just feeling those specific pinch points where the problems are or the bottlenecks are, or it's hard to make a decision because I'm missing something. And I think he's done great with his product.
Yeah, can't say enough about that. We do the whole AI piece is such a new landscape and changing quickly. There's I think 4 or 5 versions for some of the early ones that are coming out. I mentioned Next Chapters, just another shameless shout out. We have a company in the technology incubator called Boda AI, trying to get a deeper workforce engagement. And he's using AI to tie together both the workforce analytics around qualifications to build the right teams in the department, but then he's taking that and tying in the whole team dynamic, KPIs, key performance indicators, and trying to, in that engagement technology is keeping an eye on all the activity to make sure it provides an awareness that everyone is engaged and interested in what's going on. And he's starting to make traction. He's in a competition right now and working with Ben Franklin Technology Partners and trying to get the dollars to get the version 2.0 build out and market traction that he's kind of run up against right now. He's starting to get users and test the technology to then get into the workforce. Very exciting time for AI.
Yeah, I'm going to shift us a little bit, and you're going to have to help me here with some of the details. But I think one of the biggest pieces that we see, you talk about him being in the competition at Ben Franklin, trying to get funding. So funding is obviously for everybody who's starting in this, path of entrepreneurship and startups is one of the biggest hurdles. They're looking for how do I get money to support my idea, to support my business. And one of those has been how you have a grant right now currently happening, support from the Community Foundation on how to build the crowd, to support these individuals. I think it's a great opportunity for us to speak about that. And how is it that as an entrepreneur, typically you need to find out, is this the right product? Are there people that are going to be willing to support me outside of the state competitions and all of that? You want to talk a little bit about that crowd piece that we have been trying to explore more and more?
Sure, absolutely. It's a combination, and I'm going to continue to shout out to Kathy here. So Crowd Drive is a grant to energize, educate the Erie crowd and direct them towards Erie campaigns. And we've been working with campaigns with an early sponsorship of Ben Franklin, technology partners, Kathy, myself, and a bunch of great students. And Richard Stachel have been working on that 2 years ago, last year. And now we have funds to really focus on the crowd to be one of the top crowdfunding communities in the state. That's our push. So our first one was called Kiva, and their goal was 10,000. We exceeded 17,000, 141 backers. Very successful campaign, and we are planning out the next two right now.
Yeah, so I that it is a pathway, and I think through the ETI, showing as entrepreneurs coming that they could be part of. Yes, you can find funding and compete and do all the competitions, but also how do you start building that crowd that can continue to support your product or whatever ideas you're trying to put forward? It's just a great complementary initiative, I think, that before we were not doing in such a formal way.
Well, I'm gonna jump in here, Brad and Corinna. I can tell there is a lot of passion about what you're doing at the ETI and all of the exciting things coming. It was an easy discussion, and you can tell, with that discussion that you guys are on the same page and really moving that forward. But unfortunately, we are coming up on the end of the show. There were our fair share of, I will say, wonky things that happened. That was the word that I got from Stephanie Clausen at Give a Crep Erie. She did eventually get in contact with me. Had trouble getting into the Zoom. So we are going to reschedule her. So if you are looking forward to hearing about Give a Crep Erie and the things going on and their big move, we will have them back on another time, maybe next week or the week after. We'll see how that goes. But Seth, we have some stuff going on at the Corey High Ed. We don't have too much time, just a few minutes here. Anything that you want to talk about coming up soon?
Well, Kara just added a new class. It didn't happen to get onto the catalog. We have an intro to mushroom foraging. That's going on October 7th. And this will be a really cool class where it's going to start out in the Bracken Room. It's going to be from 4 to 6. So 4 to 5 p.m. You'll start at the Corey High Ed learning about mushrooms, and then you'll spend the next hour at Mead Park from 5 to 6 actually going and learning about how to find these, to forage these mushrooms. So that's a really cool class. It's only $20. So if you want to register for that, make sure you get on our website at www.coreyhighed.org or give us a call at 814-664-9405.
Yeah, Kara's just putting on some excellent classes and things going on. Every day I'm amazed at the new things that are coming up and what she's working on. But the big thing, hopefully the good news this week, we'll try to steer away from the bad news the way the morning started. Celebrate Erie taking place all weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Some really cool music acts coming in. One World Tribe is the headliner tonight at 8. Let's see. I had it here. We have Wheatus and Jimmy Eat World. Wheatus starting at 6:30 and Jimmy Eat World on Saturday starting at 8. And Sunday, Gabby Barrett. That was a big get for Erie, I think. Very up-and-coming artist. Looking forward to all that this weekend. The Chalk Walk is always big fun. Hopefully we got past the bad news and we can go from there. So how much time do we have here, Shani? Got a couple minutes. We're down to 1 minute. I'm going to do the dad joke real quick before we go. I feel like we need a joke this morning, and I had that up too, but where did it go? There it is. Why was the mobile phone wearing glasses? Because it lost its contacts.
No.
I felt that was appropriate for today. Working through the Zoom and everything that goes along with staying out of a crime scene. The show coming up next is the Economic Pulse with Lath and Tina. Stick around for that. They always have a great show. We will be back next week. I'm not sure, we don't have the second guest yet, but we do have Maggie Horn from the Small Business Development Center at Gannon, so that'll be a great show. It may be Stephanie Clausen from Creperie. We'll get back to you and let you know. We will see you next week. Thanks for being here.